Nicola Sturgeon, you're bringing a debate tonight on COP26 in Glasgow and the momentum that that event built. Since then, the Scottish Government has watered down its emissions targets after repeatedly missed. Are you disappointed by that?
I think countries everywhere have to do more to deliver on the commitments to keep temperature warming to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. You know, as we had the UN Secretary General say just last week or the week before, it's likely that we will overshoot that target globally. I think the challenge now is to make sure that that's for a very temporary period. So the Scottish Government, like governments everywhere, really have to redouble their efforts. Scotland has halved global emissions over recent years, more than halved global emissions. It's got some of the most stretching targets anywhere in the world, and those stretching targets, although the government has fallen short of meeting them, has meant we've gone further than we would otherwise have done. But for governments everywhere, this is no time to rest on our laurels. I think the world is at a tipping point, both in terms of climate action and climate justice. We're seeing governments in many countries, the United States being the prime example of this, that want to go backwards, that are no longer even seemingly committed to tackling climate change. So those governments that still are really have to step up and intensify their actions and efforts.
So does John Swinney need to go further and faster then?
I have no doubt that John Swinney is completely committed to this agenda. He was, Deputy First Minister when I was First Minister. I know what that commitment is and the strength of it. I think we saw the commitment he has to climate justice, including building on the Scottish Government's leadership around loss and damage funding when he was in Zambia and Malawi just a few weeks ago. But governments everywhere have to do more. I think we're seeing pushback. Climate action has kind of fallen into the abyss of the culture wars to some extent. So we're seeing a lot of pushback now, and that means governments that know the importance of tackling climate change have to not just stand firm, but actually go further than would otherwise have been the case.
On that note, we've got COP30 taking place in Brazil next week. You talked there about governments, particularly the US government. We've seen them encouraging more drilling in the North Sea. Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative leader, pushing for that today as well. What would you like to see COP30 achieve? And do you believe that there is any hope of keeping global warming well below 2 degrees?
Well, the current target, of course, is 1.5 degrees. I think there is almost an inevitability now that, at least for a period, we will overshoot that globally, and that's what the UN Secretary General was saying recently. But it's still possible, if the world sticks to that commitment, to make sure that's a very temporary overshooting, and I think that is the challenge and the imperative now. We are seeing pushback. We're seeing the fossil fuel industry, I think, fight a rearguard action that, in my view, actually threatens the just transition to renewable energy. And these things are all much more contested now than was the case when COP met in Glasgow just a few years ago. I attended 5 COP summits when I was First Minister. They are tense, high-stakes affairs. Progress is never guaranteed. The discussions often go right down to the wire. But I think the importance of COP30, given where things are globally right now, really can't be overstated. It is entirely possible now that the world starts to go backwards. Back in 2021, when COP was in Glasgow, there was a sense that things were moving, albeit maybe still too slowly, in the right direction. There's no guarantee of that anymore. So governments that understand and are committed to the importance of tackling climate change, ensuring climate justice, really have to stand up and be counted now.